Hello, fellow Movie Crusaders, and welcome to another Movie Crusaders chat about. I am Sean Wasserkrug. With me, as always, is Brian Michaels. And it's been a couple weeks, I think about 3 weeks now, since we last shot our half-year review, which is on the channel right now, where we could tell you all the great things that happened and not so great things that happened in 2024 so far. But we are back. We have taken a little bit of a break. Brian, you went on vacation. I'm on vacation currently right now. And in the meantime, we've watched a bunch of shit. And there's been a lot of trailers that have popped out. So we're going to talk about some of those today, as well as some of the reviews. We're going to go ahead and get started on the trailers. Brian, what is one that you want to talk about?
Let me start with one. I'll start with the one that only I really have thoughts about. And that's Killer. The Killer.
Okay.
The Killer is basically a remake of John Woo's The Killer, but this is also directed by John Woo. It's just more of an update of The Killer. It's this much beloved action classic that John Woo made back before he kind of made his Hollywood debut, starring Chow Yun-fat. And this one stars Natalie Emmanuel, who I've loved from Game of Thrones, and she popped up in the Fast and the Furious saga and The Invitation, a bunch of other stuff. I really like her. This one, she gets to take on an action role, kind of get to kick ass. The trailer itself, I actually think it looks pretty good. I mean, I think it looks like, it's a good action vehicle for her. I think it makes sense that it's going to streaming. It's on Peacock, I believe. It's not going to theaters because it probably would not be successful at theaters. But I think the trailer looks pretty good. I'm sure the John Woo fanboys are, having a fit right now that they're A, remaking it, and B, making the lead a female. But that's just because they live in their basements and don't know any better. But you know what? I have high hopes for this one because I think The Killer is a decent movie. I have never understood why people love it so much, but that's largely because I don't really like John Woo's style, which is like, more slow-mo than Zack Snyder. And I'm sure there'll be dubs at some point flying up. But I mean, he's directing this one too, so he could ruin this one. But I'm at least optimistic for it mostly because of Natalie Emmanuel, I'll be honest.
Yeah, I watched this trailer and I immediately texted Brian. And I was like, you are so conflicted right now. An actress you love with a director you hate. What do you do? You're like, I actually think it looks pretty good. I was like, okay.
The trailer looks good, but it could very well be crap. We'll see.
Like, you're going on the optimistic side. I wasn't prepared for that, so more on it. The trailer didn't really do much for me. It's not something that I'm probably gonna go out of my way to see unless you say it's worth checking out.
Oh, yeah, it's not like my most anticipated list or anything, but I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I started watching it and just being like, okay, that's a trailer. But yeah, going to our next one. This one came out a couple weeks back, but we're going to talk about it right now, and that is Jackpot. John Cena, like I said, John Cena found his wheelhouse. He's hilarious. He's a great comedian. And if you can throw action in there like they do with The Rock and Batista, then John Cena's kind of figured out his niche in Hollywood, and it works for him, especially if you can do R-rated comedy as well, because when he can just not have to worry about being constricted, it allows him to be a little better. I don't know if this one's R-rated or not, but I think it is.
Oh, yeah.
But this one is starring him and Awkwafina. Awkwafina is an aspiring actress in this movie, and she wins the lottery. But in California, the rule is if you win the lottery, you have, 24 hours to hunt down the jackpot winner. And if you kill the jackpot winner, then you win their money. So John is basically playing this protector of Awkwafina, trying to get her to survive the 24 hours, while pretty much everyone in California is gunning for her to try to kill her. It looks fun. And I told Brian this when I saw it. This is either going to be a whole lot of fun, or it's going to be dumb as shit. And if it's towing that line when I watched that trailer, I do think this also kind of falls into I think you gave away the entire film in the trailer deal, because they had Simu Liu, Shang-Chi. Like they bring him in, and he's supposed to be like these protectors, like this protector agency for lottery winners. But then in the midst of the trailer, they already showed that he turns on her, which was like, that's a character development twist you probably shouldn't have given away in the first fucking trailer of this movie. You could have just kept that like hidden and had that be, divulged in the film. So I do feel like this movie did kind of give away almost the entire film in the trailer, but like I said, it looks intriguing enough for me to want to check out.
So this one I want to say I had at least an honorable mention on my most anticipated for the year. It was originally called Grand Death Lotto. And so I had it on my list and I was keeping an eye on it. And then this thing popped up called Jackpot. I'm like, oh, what's this? And I'm like, wait, this sounds familiar. And sure enough, it's the same movie. They just retitled it. I think the trailer looks fun. And it looks like action comedies are really right up my alley because I really love action comedies. And John Cena, we've shown that that's kind of where he excels, is when he's just playing fun and not trying to be serious.
Yeah.
So he's good. Aquafina has grown on us. We used to think she was horrible, but then she did some roles where she actually wasn't bad and didn't annoy us as much, because I think she learned to tone it down a little bit, at least most of the time. The thing that has me worried most about this is the fact that it's directed by Paul Feig. Paul Feig has made one movie that I really liked, and that was A Simple Favor. And even that one, he fucked up the ending of it. So, but that, is obviously not anywhere near the same kind of movie as this. But when he has done like action comedies, it's been like Heat or Spy or Ghostbusters, if you want to call that an action movie. And those don't give me a whole lot of confidence in this. So, the cast and the concept I like. The trailer looked intriguing and it has me optimistic, but that director is keeping me from being too excited about it.
See, and I like The Heat and I loved Spy. So I'm not worried about Paul Feig being in this. Spy was great. Don't knock Spy. Jason Statham is fucking amazing in Spy, and so is Rose.
Fine, but it's mainly Melissa McCarthy, and she's not.
Melissa McCarthy is like Will Ferrell and a lot of comedians. If you sometimes they go off the handle and they ruin a movie like Identity Thief and stuff like that, and then other times it works. And I feel like in Spy it worked in her favor. I think it's because she had a great supporting cast around her to kind of corral her. If she doesn't have a great supporting cast, then yeah, Melissa McCarthy goes haywire, and then it's just bad. But I thought Spy was pretty good, and I thought Heat, Sandra Bullock played off of her pretty well, and it worked in her favor in that also. But yeah, Jackpot. Is that only theaters, or is that going streaming?
I don't. I want to say that's streaming. Is it?
I don't know. That's what I was asking. You usually know that stuff.
I usually do, but when was that coming out? I can't remember.
I mean, definitely before October.
Jackpots. Why don't I see it on this calendar? This is riveting entertainment to watch, people.
It is. But yeah, John Cena just announced he's retiring from wrestling finally next year.
But he already did that one time.
No, he never actually fully retired. Now he's officially retiring. He'll wrestle pretty much all of next year, and then he will officially be done. But he's shooting Peacemaker season 2 right now, so it'll be interesting to see what they do with Peacemaker season 2 with the whole new DC thing coming around. But
Jackpot is being released on Prime Video August 15th.
Prime, okay. I was like, I filibustered enough for you there. All right, what's your next trailer?
The next trailer I will talk about. We got a new trailer for Beetlejuice. The first trailer for Beetlejuice didn't do a whole lot for me. But
it didn't for me either.
I think it really was mostly just an announcement teaser. It's like, hey, look, there's a new Beetlejuice movie coming out. It didn't tell us a whole lot about the plot. It just kind of showed that these people kind of back in the same characters, back in that same universe. So enough to make me be like, oh, something to look forward to, but didn't get me excited about it. They finally released a new trailer for it. And I think it showed a lot more of, kind of what the movie's about. We got to see a lot more of the characters. We got to see a lot more of the world. And I think what really sells me on it is that this movie leaned heavy into the Danny. I'm so anxious to hear another Danny Elfman score. I love hearing that Danny Elfman Beetlejuice score. The music in that thing really just kind of it's almost like another character to the movie. And it made you feel like you're right back in that first movie. Michael Keaton seems like he slipped right back into the role, no problem. Jenna Ortega seems like she's going to fit in pretty well. You got a few new characters like Justin Theroux and some of those in here. But I think that now I'm still not super excited about it, but it definitely has bumped my excitement up a little bit for this one.
Yeah, I remember the first trailer, and I think we talked about it on the channel, where I was just like, it's there. I mean, I'm gonna see it because it's Beetlejuice, but I'm not really excited with anything that I saw. This trailer felt like two separate movies. That first trailer felt like one movie, and this trailer felt like a more fun, exciting movie. Because I agree, this second trailer did a lot more for me, and it's actually made me excited to check this one out. It looks more fun and just kind of zany in a way, and it feels like most of it's going to be spent in the like underworld, which for anyone who watched the Beetlejuice cartoon, that's where you spent all your time was there. I'm still interested in wanting to know what happened with Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis's ghost. I hope they at least mention that in some form or fashion of where they
Maybe
went.
eventually crossed over to the other side or something.
I just drop a line saying that that's what happened. Like, just give me that much, because the whole time I'm wondering why the fuck they aren't there, and also why they don't look the exact same unless they just do special effects to have them be there. But yeah, it definitely looked a lot more fun. And plus, Michael Keaton gets to say the F-bomb at least once, so there's that. He didn't get to have that back in the 80s.
Yeah, he did.
Did he get to say it?
Nice fucking model.
That's right.
I remember that because when I worked at a video store, whenever we played that movie, we'd have to rush there and turn down the volume for that word, or else parents would complain about it.
I used to have to do that at Best Buy with some demos. I was like, turn it down real quick.
Can't play this movie. Like, oh, don't worry, we'll make sure we'll censor that thing out. And then once in a while you'd miss it, you'd be like, oh shit.
Is anyone here? No, we're good.
Well, we'd have somebody complain about it probably. But yeah, I think the one thing that this kind of helped make me feel a little more better about this too, is because Tim Burton hasn't done this kind of movie in a long time. He kind of went on and, he started making, bigger and bigger, the blockbuster movies. And then he started making more serious stuff like Big Eyes and things like that. And then, and you kind of feel like, well, does he still have this Tim Burton still in him? Going back to his basics where it's, it's stop motion animation. It's just fun. It's just weird. It's just typical Tim Burton weirdness. And I think that this helps set my mind at ease that it did slide right back into that old Tim Burton. And a big part of that probably is the score as well. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. My next one, we got a second trailer for Alien Romulus. This one, much like Beetlejuice, is a story trailer. So we actually get to know what the plot is and what's going on here. I mean, I'm like I said, and I said this the many times we've talked about Alien Romulus on the show already. I'm excited for this because Freddy Alvarez is directing. And I love Freddy Alvarez as a director. Everything that he's done so far, at least mainstream-wise, I have been a fan of. Definitely focusing on the face huggers a lot in this, especially the insertion of the face huggers. It's like, really? Okay, we're definitely going to be showing that. But that's Freddy Alvarez.
Bite down, people. Just bite. Anyway.
Exactly. Here's my one worry. Does this not kind of also feel like the plot to Don't Breathe?
A little bit.
This is a group breaking into a space station that's supposedly abandoned to steal some shit, and there are aliens on board. It's like, didn't we just do this? We did Don't Breathe already. We don't need this for aliens. Just
with the same director.
I know, but that's my worry. That's my worry. Did you have that worry at all? Did you pick up on that or no?
I kind of picked up on it, but I mean, if you look at the very basic log line of it, yes, that original reason they're there is basically similar. But I didn't look at it any farther than that. It's not something that gives me any pause about whether the movie is good. It's just kind of like, oh, that's a weird coincidence.
I kind of just, it's going to go like, please, dude, I know you got more thoughts in your head than using the same thing for Don't Breathe.
Well, I think, and really that in that situation, like you described it, is really just the backdrop for this movie, because I think that this trailer showed us that it's leaning way more into like the horror aspect of it. Like people talk about how the first Alien was a horror movie and the second one was more of an action movie, and then the ones after that took on their own kind of personalities. But this one is a lot closer to that first movie in that it's not like action, like Marines with guns and stuff. This is more just a horror movie, but it's definitely got a lot more to it. It's a different style of horror. There is going to be action in it, but the trailer I think created a great atmosphere, and it kind of created a great kind of feeling of terror as you watch this. And I think it's going to be good.
This is definitely one that I feel like is a must-watch in theaters because of the dark. Aliens always thrives in a dark atmosphere. If you're watching it somewhere in like your living room and it's all bright with lights and shit, I feel like it loses its aestheticness. So this is definitely one to check out in theaters. I'm still excited to see it. I'm still optimistic, but it's just that trailer made me go, what are we doing here? Come on, Fetty. But yeah, I'm still excited to see it though. What's your next trailer?
We got another trailer for Trap from M. Night Shyamalan.
The greatest con man in movie trailer history, everybody.
I gotta say, this looks better every time I see more about it. I mean, first of all, I love just seeing Josh Hartnett kind of leading movies again and not straight to video stuff, because he very well could have gone down that path like some people and started pumping out straight to video movies and his career could be over. But he's kind of decided to kind of work his way back into the mainstream, and I think he looks great in this. I love, again, the atmosphere they kind of set up for this thing. It's like he's kind of trapped there, but he's kind of reveling in it. So it's like, is he trapped, or is it more like
it's
other
a
people are trapped with
challenge
him?
for him in this.
It's like almost like the other people are trapped in there with him, more like, because I mean,
Yes.
you see, because they even talk about like to some psychologist who talks about, how, oh, he's going to try and create chaos, and sure enough, he's like throwing like bottles into the fryer so it explodes on people and shit like that, and he's just like he's having all kind, and he's having fun doing it. He's smiling the whole time when he's done this shit. So I think it's going to be fun to watch this. I don't know where the movie's going to go or where it's going to end, but it's M. Night Shyamalan movie, so it could very well end in a giant fucking disappointment. But I gotta say, once again, they at least cut a trailer. It makes me want to see it.
Which is why M. Night Shyamalan is the biggest con man in Hollywood. He always makes his trailers look cool as shit. They look fun. They look exciting. They make me go, fuck yeah, I want to see that movie. Until you're in the movie, you go, you son of a bitch. And god damn it, you son of a bitch, you make me want to see this movie. Honestly, even before it was M. Night Shyamalan, the premise alone made me want to see this. Plus, with Josh Hartnett, I wanted to see it. It was the M. Night aspect of it that made me go, no. But the second trailer, I agree. Every time I keep seeing new stuff for this, I'm liking it more and more. It's just the M. Night in my brain. I've got this PTSD of M. Night Shyamalan fucking me over profusely that makes me super hesitant with this film. And I can't.
I remember the trailer for The Happening. I'm like, oh, this looks like his best film yet.
And one of the biggest dog shit movies we've ever seen. And usually the ones that are the best are the ones that his trailers aren't anything crazy. Split. There's nothing much to that trailer. And it's one of his best films. I'm pretty sure Sixth Sense and Unbreakable and Signs, I'm sure their trailers were just kind of what they were. But these other ones, they're big spectacles on selling, like The Village and shit. And they're just dog trash of films. So I want this to succeed. I want this to be good. I really, really do. Because I want Josh Hartnett to get praised. I really, really do. But I just can't let go of that fear that M. Night is going to fuck up this very simple script. This is
for me though, I actually feel better about him now than I ever did before, because like back when he was in his prime.
See, you liked Glass and I didn't.
Right, well, like Sixth Sense and Unbreakable and Signs, I thought they were good movies, but super overrated. And then he went on to like The Village, Lady in the Water, The Happening, Last Airbender, After Earth. I'm surprised he has a career after that run. That's 5 movies in a row that all were shit.
Yeah.
But then, but his last several movies, I'm looking at Split, Glass, Old, which was not great, but I thought it was fun. Knock at the Cabin, I enjoyed. And now Trap. It's like, I think he's on a pretty good run, personally. So, we'll see.
It's one of those things, man. You fooled me once, you fooled me twice, you fooled me 5 times now, dude. And yes, his recent run has not been bad. I was not a fan of Glass. But yeah, Knock at the Cabin was solid. It wasn't. Yes, thank you. Old sucked. Old sucked. It sucked. Old sucked. It was not good.
Yeah, I'll say this about Old. I enjoy Old, but it felt like it probably should have been more like a Black Mirror episode.
I agree. If it was a Black Mirror episode, it probably would have worked a lot better than a full-length film. Yes, he was. Josh Hartnett was in a Black Mirror episode, so there's the correlation. But I want this to be good. I really, really, really do. In spite of M. Night, I want this to be really good because it looks fun. Because like I said, this is a very.
It can't be worse than his daughter's movie. Just saying.
His daughter was falling right in his trap. But this is a very simple script. This is a simple script. Serial killer trapped in a concert with police everywhere. Causing chaos. This should be easy to do, but I feel like M. Night's going to do something with a twist or some stupid shit to fuck it up, and I'm so goddamn worried about it. So we'll see what happens. Next, in the We Never Thought This Was Going to Happen movie, We heard rumblings. We're like, well, this is never going to actually come out. And now there's a trailer for it, Gladiator 2. I love the first Gladiator. I think most people loved Gladiator. You can still quote Gladiator to this day. Not that it's old. It's like 23 years old now, which for some people is old. For us, it's like, yeah, it's 20 years older than the 80s movies, or younger than the 80s movies. But Gladiator 2, I don't really know Paul. Is it? Oh God, what's his last name? Paul Mescal.
Oh, Mescal.
Mescal.
Oh, Mescal, yeah.
I don't really know him. I haven't really watched him in anything of.
He's the newest Hollywood it boy who they're trying to push down our throats.
Exactly.
Now, I have not seen him in enough to really make a judgment on him, but he's one of those guys like they talk about for everything. It's like, can we just make our own choice?
He did some movie last year or came out earlier this year with Daisy Edgar Jones. I don't know what the movie was. Normal People. I didn't hear anything. I heard that he's amazing in it, but like I said, I didn't watch it. So this is probably going to be my first real introduction to the dude. Denzel is basically playing Training Day in this, it felt like. Did he not feel like he was basically playing Training Day? He totally is playing Training Day in this. My man. With the earring and everything. You know, what's he got? Caesar ain't got shit on me. He'll use that line in this movie.
Oh, that'd be awesome if he did.
Yes. The big thing that I got out of this is one, Pedro Pascal, who here's where I'm, at least from the trailer side of things, because I can't decipher it yet. I feel like he's like the Eric Bana from Troy, where it's like he's not a bad guy, but he's a bad guy to the lead, so he's kind of indifferent. Because that's what I felt like while watching this trailer. I couldn't tell if he was really a bad guy or just a bad guy to Paul's character. But hey, Pedro is super hot right now. You can kind of put Pedro on anything, and I'm going to kind of check it out. And then you got Joseph Quinn. So we've got two of the Fantastic Four in this movie, and Joseph Quinn looks like he's chewing the fuck out of the scenery in this, and I am there for that. He looks like he's having a ball. If this was in the 80s, I would say he probably did a bump before each scene, because that is how Joseph Quinn is acting in every scene in this, and I'm fucking there for it. I think this looks great. I'm super fucking excited for this movie now. I don't really care about the lead, but I like everything else that's going on with this. What were your thoughts?
This, like you said, this movie I never thought was going to happen. The first Gladiator movie, when they were making it, I thought it was going to come out as going to be kind of a fun sword and sandals kind of movie, whatever. Did not expect it to end up being like award-winning, Oscar-winning, highly acclaimed. I thought it was going to be more of just like Troy was. It's kind of a fun sword and sandals action movie. Turned out to be a phenomenal film. Love that movie. Deserves Best Picture. They've been talked for years about making the second ones, but one part of it was like the gods decided to send Maximus back to Earth, and but first of all,
Maximus is incredibly out of shape.
Yeah, I would say first of all, Maximus is way out of shape, so that was never going to happen. But it's like also it's just kind of a stupid way to go about it. So I thought that they found a good way to do it, where it involves they're carrying over a character from the first movie, and it's got connection. There's multiple characters actually that connect the movie.
Yeah.
So, but it's going to be about a new gladiator, a new kind of thing. But I really didn't know anything more about it until we saw this trailer. And this trailer, I think the trailer looks good. The problem is, honestly, whenever I think of the trailer, I'm conflating it with Those About to Die, the new Peacock series about gladiators.
Yes, because every time that trailer pops up, I think that they're showing a Gladiator trailer, and I'm like, nope, there's Anthony Hopkins. This is that other thing, and that's gonna confuse a lot of people. Now, granted,
I remember oh, there's that one scene where they're flooding the
Coliseum
with water to have like a water battle. I'm like, wait, which was that the show or was that the movie? And
nope, that's the movie. That's Gladiator.
and so that because like that kind of stuff looks awesome. I think the fighting scenes will be awesome. Like you said, Denzel looks like he's having a blast. So it'll be fun. Joseph Quinn, like you said, I'm really curious to see him in this role because he's not. I mean, he had to play, in Stranger Things, were most people's first introduction to him. He was fun, but then like since then, he's done a lot more just kind of down to earth. Like even in Quiet Place, he was kind of just a straight man, kind of just everything was serious, obviously because of the situation he was in.
Yeah.
But this one, it looks like he's getting to play a very kind of flamboyant, fun kind of character, and which I think is going to give us a kind of a glimpse into what maybe his Johnny Storm will be a little bit more like. Not the same, obviously, but just have more personality to him. So I think that's going to be.
He basically Eddie Munson, or is it Munson or Munster in Stranger Things?
Eddie Munster's from the Munsters.
I know, but his name was a lot like that too, so I always get tripped up on it. But I mean, his character was all out there like that too, and which is why I think this is kind of perfect for him.
But so I mean, I'm looking forward to this again. Well, this is kind of the opposite of M. Night for me, because Ridley Scott has not been on a great run as of late.
He hasn't.
I mean, because there was a time when he pumped out great movies like back in the day, but in recent years it's been more like Exodus, Gods and Kings, All the Money in the World, House of Gucci, Napoleon, Prometheus, and Alien Covenant. Like, he has not had a great run of movies. There's been occasional, like The Martian, I know a lot of people loved. I thought it was fine. The Last Duel was actually decent, but again, not anything great. But hopefully this is the one that's like kind of gets him back into the Ridley Scott that we always loved. I mean, his movies always look good, so I'm sure this one will look good again. It's just a matter of, I think they get away from him. I think that he tends to make his movies bloated, and we'll see what happens with this one.
That's how I feel about every Ryan Murphy American Horror Story. It gets too bloated, and he doesn't know how to fucking end it.
Oh, I tapped out on that after like 2-3 seasons.
It took me 6 seasons, but I finally tapped out on it. Our last trailer, obviously we talked about it a little bit in our MCU show that's on the channel right now. Captain America, Brave New World, our first actual MCU film. Yes, people, I know Deadpool Wolverine is an MCU movie now, but technically we don't know what it is right now. But it's our first
Disney Marvel movie. I don't know if it's actually MCU. This remains to be seen.
Yeah, but our first MCU film since last year's The Marvels. We finally get a Captain America 4, or we call it Falcon Winter Soldier, Captain America style. We don't know what we want to call it. It's just Captain America Brave New World. We finally get to see Falcon as Captain America in a feature lead film. We've got the recasting of William Hurt. Harrison Ford is taking over as Thunderbolt Ross in this. What were your thoughts of this trailer? I don't think I've ever actually heard what your thoughts were on this.
I've never been excited about this movie, because partially because I don't really care about Anthony Mackie or Sam Wilson as Captain America. I'm like, I don't care about him at all, and I'm not saying, oh, Bucky should have been. I'm like, just don't have a Captain America. Why do you have to? I just don't care. You
just want to keep it Falcon and Winter Soldier, basically.
Falcon should just be Falcon. Yeah, I have no problem with that. But I mean, it is what it is. He's the new Captain America, and you have to accept it. But I was never super excited about this movie. I heard all the problems they were having with this movie, and they apparently rewrote and reshot most of the movie. It's kind of a whole different movie now than it originally was, supposedly. Obviously it's been delayed many times because of that. Finally, in theory, coming out in February, I think it is.
Actually.
I will say I think the tone of the movie is a lot closer to like The Winter Soldier. It's a lot more of that kind of political thriller intrigue kind of thing. Obviously with action scenes, of course, still just like Winter Soldier was, but that's kind of the tone they're going for in this one. I think it's real apropos. I think that Harrison Ford will be fine as General Ross and seemingly Red Hulk.
Yeah, Red Hulk. Yeah,
we do see that brief glimpse at the end of the trailer, which we don't. In the comic books, General Ross at some point becomes Red Hulk. We're assuming that's what happens here, but we haven't seen the face.
It's 100% him.
I know. I just don't want to say 100% because we haven't seen the face, and who knows, they could change things.
But he's got the same haircut.
But seemingly, yes, that's going to be General Ross. So I'm very curious to see that, especially because Harrison Ford doing mocap performance is just the funniest thing I can picture in my head. I mean, obviously, he would just be in the face, but
yes, like you really think he's doing the.
No, I was picturing there.
If you did, please get us the behind the scenes. Please get us the behind the scenes of him doing the mocap.
No, I just picture him like, they have him sitting in a chair with all dots on his face going,
Harrison, be agitated.
We haven't started yet. Oh, that's just your other face. He's always like agitated. Cool.
Exactly. Just times that his face by 100. Okay, there's the whole face.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm very interested to see that. They talk about how this is going to be pivotal and kind of, this is going to, create the new direction for the MCU and kind of, this is going to set things where they're in motion, where they're going to go. And so I don't know where this movie is going plot wise. They haven't really told us a whole lot about it. But we'll see. But I mean, the trailer did its job. I mean, I'm interested to see it now more than ever before, but it's still not like, woohoo, another Captain America without real Captain America. So it's not the movie I'd like to see them, being the next one out in theaters, but it is what it is.
I mean, it had to come out at some point here soon. But I mean, like I said, I like Captain America and the Winter Soldier. It was, if you watch our MCU show that we just put on the channel, it is my third favorite MCU show that's come out since they started doing the live action MCU shows. And I like Sam, and I'm totally cool with him being Captain America. I mean, do I agree that he should just stay as Falcon? Sure, but they had to do it, so okay, I'm cool with it. I don't think we're going to get Winter Soldier in this. I think he's strictly going to be gone because the Thunderbolts movie and stuff like that. So he's probably going to be off somewhere, not with Sam, which is where we saw them. When we last saw them, they were together. I don't think they're going to be together in this. But yeah, having Harrison Ford in it. I mean, as long as Harrison Ford is bringing his Harrison Fordness to it and not just kind of sleepwalking through this, then I'm going to be excited to see him. Just looking at the cast right now, this is what's making me excited for it. Giancarlo Esposito. Still don't know who the fuck he is in this. They still won't say who he is. People have speculations, but if you go on IMDb, he still does not have a character name. It's just his, the actor's name. Mm-hmm. Liv Tyler is supposed to be back for as Betty Ross. She's supposed to be back, which I thought was okay. We're sticking with Edward Norton is the Hulk in this timeline, technically, since Liv Tyler is in this. Rosa Salazar, love her. Tim Blake Nelson, another character from The Incredible Hulk, is back in this. And we kind of also left him in a weird spot in The Incredible Hulk. So it'd be interesting to see where he is going into this movie. Also, my boy, for the pro wrestling fans, Seth frickin' Rollins is in this movie. And I'm super intrigued. Is he going to be like George St. Pierre, just kind of be like this goon guy that's going to be in it? I'm super intrigued to see what he does in the movie. And then also Carl Lumbly, which many people remember him from The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. He was Isaiah. He was the other guy who had the super serum, who wasn't treated with all the pomp and circumstance that Steve Rogers had. And where we saw in the trailer for it, I'm intrigued to see what he does because I really like this actor. I loved him in Dr. Sleep. I've liked him in other things he's been in. And I'm really interested in seeing if he's going to be a real focal point or a real character in this, or if it's just going to kind of be a one-off, scene or two with him in the movie. But like I said, I have a lot more, I guess, promise in the MCU than a lot of people do right now. And I think that this probably is the right step for them to take. It's to kind of do a more, I'm going to say grounded, but it's got Red Hulk in it, but a more grounded political thriller, much like Winter Soldier was a spy espionage film. I think this is the right step by trying to ground everything kind of back down and not doing the whole multiverse space stuff, but kind of keep it narrowed down.
That makes me very happy. You know how happy that makes me.
Exactly. So I think this is actually the right step for, because with Deadpool and Wolverine next week, it's going to be wacky and crazy and all over the fucking place. Going back into a tighter level, ground level kind of movie, I think it's the right step for him. So I'm actually excited to see this. I think, like I said, I think it comes out on Valentine's Day, no less. So, but those are our trailers. Now we're going to go into the reviews. I've got 2 TV shows, and I think you just have the 1 TV show, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll knock my 2 TV shows out of the way. First one, I just finished it hours ago. Baby Reindeer. Had heard a ton of praise over this show. It's getting Emmy nominations like crazy. Now, I went into this expecting it to kind of be... Do you know anything about this show?
I know the bare minimum about it.
Okay, so this is a real-life situation that happened. The star of the film is the person that it happened to. So he lived this, he then wrote it and made it into a screenplay and then decided, I'm going to be myself in this movie. So you also got to take everything that happens in this kind of with a grain of maybe this is a little over.
You're hearing his version of the story.
You're hearing his version of the story. Now the crazy good lady in this, she's now gone out and tried to sue the show for defamation, all this crap, but she's doing it because she knows she can try to get money out of it. So she's not really doing a good job of defending herself in this. But anyway, the show is basically about a guy who, I'm not going to go into great detail about what's happened to him, but he's got some personal demons, and he's a bartender. And basically this woman comes in and she looks like she's having a bad day, and he basically gives her a free cup of tea because it's in England. And from then on, they kind of develop that bartender, hey, tell me what's going on, kind of acting, interesting stuff. And a friendship starts, but for her, it's a lot more than that. And it starts to become a stalker situation. And she figures out his email, and she starts sending him like hundreds of emails a day, and it's all like very creepy, weird things, and she follows him everywhere, and she's intermingling into his life and affecting everything that's going on in his life. And this guy's like an aspiring comedian. She starts showing up at his comedy shows, and it's all about how he's dealing with this, or lack of not dealing with it, because there's so many times that he could have fucking stopped this thing, and he fucking doesn't, which drives you up a fucking wall watching this show. Performance wise, everyone, I mean, it's getting the Emmy nominations for a reason. So these especially the two leads, they're doing a good job. You got, like I said, and the guy, I mean, he's basically just reliving his life, which is Richard Gadd. And then Jessica Gunning, who plays Martha, they're doing a great job. I also want to shout out Nava Mao, who plays Terry in the show. She's great in it. But this show is something, you're watching it and you just don't know quite how to feel while watching it. You feel agitated and annoyed and just straight pissed at most of this, because there's so much of this guy, he just keeps burying himself further and further and further, and he could have stopped this. There's so many times that he could have, like, he's been given an out to get away from this woman, and because he doesn't want to hurt her feelings or do something to upset her, he just digs himself in deeper and deeper, and then when it finally gets to a point where he finally has had enough, we're too far past the point of no return. He should have gone to the cops a lot sooner. He should have done this and this and this. And it's very frustrating watching it. It's 6 episodes. It feels like 12. And they're not even that long of episodes, but it's so anxiety ridden the whole way through. It's not a fun watch. It really isn't. I think we got maybe 4 episodes watched, and I kind of asked my girlfriend, like, do we want to even keep watching this? And she's like, we're finishing it. I was like, okay, we're finishing it, but are you enjoying it? She's like, not really. I was like, I'm really not either, but I kind of want to see where it goes. Does it end in a satisfactory way? Kind of. I mean, clearly he had to, something had to happen. He's able to write the script and fucking star in it himself, but it's a very frustrating watch. I don't knock any of the performers. I think it's well written to a point, but it's a frustrating ride because, once again, he lived it. So it's, once again, you kind of have to go, did this all happen exactly 100%, or are you bullshitting us? We don't know. There are a couple episodes that do follow certain things that are very strong, such as grooming and just inner demons of stuff that happens, such as, rape and all that kind of stuff. And I think those scenes are, those episodes are actually done incredibly well. They're really powerful episodes. There's a moment where he has this immediate breakthrough, I think episode 5. And I think that's his Emmy. That's his Emmy right there. He puts on this amazing scene. And I was like, okay, well, that's what got him his Emmy. But yeah, I didn't love it. A lot of people are over the moon about it. I don't think I think it's a very well done 6-episode, little limited series. It's not something 7. It's not something that I would necessarily recommend to people. It's like, hey, you want to watch a show where a guy's getting stalked and his inner demons are destroying his life? That sounds fun. I can't necessarily recommend it, but it is what it is. You're going to be hearing a lot more about it as we get going, because you got through the Netflix like crazy phase where everyone's like, oh, this show. But now we're going to start heading into the award seasons, and this thing's just going to start gaining more and more steam. So I watched it. I didn't love it. Girlfriend didn't love it. But yeah, that it is what it is. Now the next show, Brian quit watching after episode 3, and that is The Acolyte, Star Wars. Brian quit on it. I don't think he should have quit. I think he should have. What's that?
I tapped out.
Yeah, you tapped out.
I didn't care.
Yeah, you tapped out. This is another one of those, which almost like every fucking Star Wars show now. You either love it and you're a shill, or you hate it and you're a racist asshole. And that's kind of how Star Wars has become lately, which is very frustrating. And it's unfair. And like, Star Wars is allowed to be bad, and you're allowed to love Star Wars. And just because Brian didn't like it, doesn't mean that I need to hate it either. And just because I love it doesn't mean that Brian has to love it. We are allowed to feel the way we feel about these shows, the same as everybody.
Right, like I've said, and case of many Star Wars recently, I've said this just isn't for me. I'm glad people who enjoy it are enjoying it. Just not for me.
And I mean this is a story. This is the first Star Wars story that is finally not in the Skywalker era. It is 300 years before the first Phantom Menace or Clone Wars, wherever you want to start on where it fucking starts. It's 300 years. The only person technically alive in this time frame is Yoda. That's it. Everyone else is not born yet. Well, Carl Moody, they find out, is alive, and that technically fucks the whole timeline out because he should not have been alive in this, but he pops up in it for like a blink and you miss it, which at that point is like, why the fuck did you put him in it? But it's a whole new world, and they don't really do a whole lot to kind of make you feel like it's different. The Jedi are shady. They're up to no good in this. They try to cover up shit. They're basically like the fucking government in this movie.
From what I saw, they're kind of incompetent too.
Yes, they're also kind of incompetent. The main character or characters, because it's supposed to be twins, they're the least interesting of the entire group. The performances, May and Osha, played by
Amanda Sternberg.
Yes, Amanda Sternberg, who many people will know as like Rue from the Hunger Games and other things. That's where I knew her from. She is fine. She's not great. And I don't necessarily blame the acting outside of like two people on them. I blame the script. This is all about pacing and a script that ultimately fails the Acolyte in general. Because never at any point outside of maybe two characters do you actually give a shit about any of these people. Because they don't really give you that reason to care about them. And a lot of that's also because it's only 6 episodes. If they had stretched this out to 10 or 12 episodes, then some of the episodes that we got, I could defend going, we need this for story. But when you waste 2 episodes basically doing a flashback and you're kind of just re-going through the same events twice from different perspectives, but you only have 8 episodes to tell this in, you're wasting 2 fucking episodes. You don't have that kind of time. And you're killing off leads. You're killing off the characters that are basically the actors and the characters that you have been promoting as like the forefront of this show. And newsflash, Carrie-Anne Moss dies in the fucking first scene of the show. And that was like the forefront, like, promoter.
Yeah, there were two people I really wanted to see in this show. One was Carrie-Anne Moss, killed her off. Now I knew that she was going to show up at least in a flashback.
And even then, if you time watch her every time she's on screen after her death, maybe 10 minutes.
Yeah, but I didn't make it.
That's generous. That's
and the other one for me was Manny Jacinto, who I really liked in everything I've seen him in.
He is the best part. He is
right. But here's the thing: I watched him I'm like, he's fine, but whatever. Now, after I watched is when his character got interesting. After I tapped out. But so I'm sure he was probably, I would be interested in watching him, but I just didn't care enough about the rest of the story to keep going.
And here's the problem with that, because his character, did they ever actually give him an actual name in this? He's just a stranger. I don't think they ever gave him a real name in the movie or in the show. He's playing like kind of like this dumb idiot in the first 3 episodes, which is where Brian tapped out. Afterwards, you find out he's not an idiot. He's something else. And when he becomes that something else, he is the most interesting motherfucker that in Star Wars in a long time. And you are glued to him anytime he's on screen. Because up to that point, the only character you really give a shit about is Lee Jung-jae, who plays Master Soul from Squid Game. He's great.
I didn't care about him.
What's that?
I didn't care about him. I've been fine. They killed him off.
I think everyone outside of Brian cared about his character. But he's really the only character you care about until this character comes around. But he's the bad guy in the show. And you just want to spend your whole time with him. And once we finally get this character, we get a flashback episode, which he's not a part of. And then we have the finale, in which at that point he's got to share with the remaining characters on screen. And so he's not utilized to his effectiveness. I would watch a show of just him and where he ends up at the end of this season, because there's supposed to be a season 2 and they're supposed to continue the story. I don't know if they fucking will or not based off of how the reactions have been for the show, but I really would love to see where this character goes based off of where we are, because he is interesting as shit. And I really, really want to watch where he goes with this, because by the end of this episode, there's only like 3 people that are still alive that started this show. There's a Wookiee Jedi that everyone was super excited to see, and he's completely underutilized. He has like one real cool scene, and that's it. He's basically the Boba Fett of this fucking show. Well, you can't even call that now anymore because Boba Fett has like Boba Fett show now, but he's no, you can't say that about Darth Maul either. He's a cool character, but they don't utilize him except for in one scene. And there's just this show had the potential to do something like Andor, which I know Brian's not a fan of Andor, but Andor took something like Rogue One and made it not about Jedi, not about the Force, and it was just about espionage and spy and stuff like that while in the midst of this, Empire rule. With the Acolyte, you had the potential of doing the Knights of the Old Republic, High Council, all that kind of shit, and you tried to revolve it around a mystery between these 4 Jedi and these 2 girls. And it's just not that compelling. It's not exciting. It's not making you go, oh, it's Tuesday night. Here comes the Acolyte. It's like, oh, it's Tuesday night. I should watch the episode of the Acolyte before, Twitter spoils everything. You have 2 episodes that are like 24 minutes each. And they could have condensed that to 1 fucking episode. So we could have had another episode with some fucking story. But no, we get it split into 2 episodes. Granted, the first episode is just moving chess pieces. That second episode, which is right where you stopped watching, was the awesome episode. I will say this: there's one good thing about the Acolyte. The action sequences and the fight sequences are some of the best we've had in Star Wars. They focus on the martial arts aspects of this with the lightsabers and everything, and it looks great. Anything that has to do with the fighting aspects of the show, it is top notch. There's nothing I can knock about the fighting in this show. It's the story, it's the lack of depth with the characters, and just kind of what the whole season was about that just made this show just kind of fall flat for me. There are things in this there are things in this to love and appreciate. But on the other end, I just don't care. I don't care. Why are they doing this? Why are we wasting time on this? Wow, you really are shortchanging us here. And then boom, it's over. And then they tag on 2 things at the very end to try to latch on to a season 2. One, spoiler, they showed Darth Plagueis, or at least who we think is Darth Plagueis. Plagueis, sorry. They show who we think is him to go, oh, well, we have to have season 2 because we have to see what happens with him. But you didn't do anything really to make us care about that other than we just know that, oh, that's the guy that, Palpatine was talking to Anakin about in Revenge of the Sith. There's a whole story to him. I don't think we're going to get that if we get to season 2 with him. And then they almost they bring in Yoda in a post-credit scene. But by bringing in Yoda, oh yeah, just the back of his head. They bring in Yoda at the very, very end, and by doing so, almost kind of makes Yoda dirty. Like he was a part of the dirtiness that the Jedi did, which at that point, we don't know. He might not know any of it. But based off of what they were doing and how the episode ended, and then they bring Yoda in at the end, like, hey, Yoda, we got to tell you something. It almost makes Yoda compliant and in on it, which completely puts Yoda, who is like holier than thou good guy in Star Wars, and it starts to murky the waters of Yoda, if that's where they were going with that. And I got a problem with that. And so at the end of the day, Acolyte just did not work. And that's coming from some people. I've even watched people who love Star Wars who will defend it as much as I defend it. And even they're going, yeah, this didn't go well. This didn't go well. You had your first real opportunity to do something that was outside of the Star Wars or the Skywalker saga, and you fumbled the ball. Now, if they do a season 2, I'm going to fucking watch it in hopes that they will learn from this and do better. There are plenty of shows who had a real shitty first season and figured out what they did wrong and bounced back in their second season. I can name at least 10 movies on the top of 10 shows on the top of the head that did that. But will Disney give it that time?
I don't think you'll see a second season of this. I think if anything, you might see something, whether it be a movie or a TV show that takes place in that era, which picks up beyond this. Like they want to continue to tell the story of Darth Plagueis, that kind of thing. But I think the Acolyte as a show, I don't think you'll see season 2.
No, if anything, they'll find something else and they'll split it off and it'll be like a season 2, but it's not the Acolyte. It's something else, but it has the Stranger and Osha and them in it, but it's not going to be the Acolyte. It'll just be like a spin-off continuation thing, kind of like Book of Boba Fett was a side quest to the Mandalorian, but was still connected to the Mandalorian. I feel like that's what they'll probably do to keep these characters going, but get rid of the name of the Acolyte because it's got a stink on it now and call it something different. But
and you can hear us speculate about this because I think pretty soon we're going to be doing a state of Star Wars, just like we did the state of the MCU.
If you guys enjoyed our MCU conversations that we had, we're going to have a Star Wars one here coming up. We're going to talk about the movies, the shows, where we think Star Wars is going to go. So we're going to do that as well because I think that one deserves a conversation, and we're going to do that here in a little while. But the last TV show you actually did watch, you can actually chime in on, and that was season 4 of The Boys. We have both been fans of this since day one, since it come out. Now, what I will say this, I've heard people did not like this season that much. Are you in that boat, or did you still enjoy it, or are you just kind of mixed? What are your thoughts?
Well, I still enjoy it, but the thing about me and The Boys is I don't really give a shit about the whole story of The Boys. It's like
the characters, The Boys. You're talking about the whole story as a whole.
I think the whole plot of it. I don't care about the Homelander, and I don't care about Butcher and his son, and I don't care about Starlight and the whole journeys they're on. I just watch it because I like it because it's fun as hell. I like seeing when they get crazy and when batshit stuff happens, and the kind of the R-rated stuff they do with these superhero movies and just the things they think of. Like, I love watching that stuff, and so I tune in to see what batshit things they're going to do this episode. But I don't care about the story of it, honestly. Like, I at this point, from I forget parts about the plot because I'm like, what? Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Okay, cool.
I care about the story, but if I had to put this up against Gen V, I care about Gen V way more than I care about The Boys, and Gen V's only had one season. And that's just because I feel like in terms of The Boys, like the actual boys, not the show, but the actual boys, I feel like that they've just kind of are in the same holding pattern that they were in season 1. I don't feel like the actual boys have really grown since season 1. I mean, Kamiko is gotten more growth, but Frenchie, I feel like Frenchie's still Frenchie. Huey's still fucking Huey. Butcher's still Butcher. He's grown. MM's definitely grown. But it's just, and then Starlight's just still kind of Starlight. But it's just,
although with some plastic surgery this year, but okay.
I don't care about that.
It's very different. It always throws me off. I hate when people do that. They ruin their faces.
Yeah, anyway. I think it still looks fine. It's more of the superheroes that make the show enjoyable. Black Noir this season, hilarious. The Deep, hilarious. Homelander, still crazy as ever. The addition of Sage. She's remember
a character. I liked her.
When she first came on, I was like, I'm not gonna give a shit about this character. Like, I'm not. But as you grow, like, she is literally one of the most entertaining aspects of the show. Firecracker. I don't necessarily care for the character, but I love the actress playing her, and she's acting her ass off as Firecracker in this show. But yeah, Sage is fucking awesome. There are, like I said, your crazy episodes. There was the episode when they're at the expo. The actor that in question in that, I know him as from another show for something else. Did not need to see him in that light. That was definitely a new version of that actor. I'm the reason why I'm saying it that way is because my girlfriend has not watched season 4 yet, so I'm kind of jumping around and not spoiling too much. Definitely did not need to see that actor in that light. And you guys all, if you guys know the episode, you guys know exactly who I'm talking about.
I assume what you're talking about. Yeah, it's not what it looks like. That guy.
Yeah. Yes, it's not what it looks like. Yes, the guy from Waiting.
Oh yeah, that is him. Yeah.
Yes, that's him, and he's also in another show that I'm not going to say for spoiler reasons. The Tech Night episode. That was, woo! That was
that's the kind of stuff. That's what I watch The Boys for.
Yes, you watch it for the depravity and the absolute bullshit. Even the other side of things with the episode where they're on the farm with the sheep. That was, whew. But I mean, there's so many moments in the season, such as like Homelander going back to his, I'll call it his home, not really his home, but his home. That whole scene, just give Anthony Starr a fucking Emmy already. The dude is killing it every fucking season. This guy deserves at least a nomination, if not a win, because this guy is acting his ass off as Homelander. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you like with?
No, I think he does a great job. Now, I tend to gravitate towards the supporting characters. Honestly, it's like I've always loved when they bring on like when Aya Cash first showed up on the show a couple seasons
Oh,
ago,
she was phenomenal.
and
I
then
love
now
her.
with Sage and Firecracker, I really enjoy them. And it's like the core group. It's like I've never, except for Butcher. Butcher's always been a ton of fun to me, but that's just because Carl Urban. But I agree that Anthony Starr is doing a great job in his role, and it's weird because it's one of those characters who he's a bad guy. He's fucking evil. But then there's the moments where you're like, are they trying to make me feel bad for Homelander? I'm like, wait a minute.
Like I said, it's the range of Anthony Starr this season. Like these moments where it's like, dude, he's acting his ass off in this scene, man. Like when he's in his home base, like he's doing some horrible things, but you're also like, I also kind of get it. Like if I had his power, would I not probably go and do that same thing? Maybe if I got to that level, that point where I felt like I'm untouchable and I can do whatever the fuck I want because I'm basically a god, maybe I would consider doing something like that as well. And so you're watching this and you're like, this is dark, but you know what? It's like it's kind of earned at the same fucking time. And his moments with Ryan, like he's trying to be a dad. He really, really is. He actually generally tries. He's not good at it, but he never really had a good dad to begin with. But he's trying. He's horrible as a human being, and you're not supposed to root for him, but I could definitely root for the performance of Anthony Starr in this. Also, special guest star Tilda Swinton. Did not expect that to work. It fucking worked.
I was like, wait, what's that voice? And I'm like, oh, wait a minute.
Yes, because at first I'm like, did they get a big actress for this? I'm like, holy shit, they did. That is fantastic. Jeffrey Dean Morgan. He basically plays the same person almost in everything now, but I'm fucking here for it. I'm always for him acting like a Negan kind of character, and I loved him acting off of Carl Urban in every scene. We're heading into the final season for it. I can't wait to see what they do with it. I'm excited. This might not have been the strongest season, but I am more intrigued going into season 2 of Gen V and seeing what they're going to do because
they're more intertwined now too.
Exactly. They did integrate Gen V into this season, more so than I thought they were going to do. So I'm really intrigued to see where they go with season 2 of that. And then in 2026, we'll see where they go with the final season of The Boys. Now let's go into movies. Brian, I've been talking a lot. Why don't you go into some of your reviews?
First I'll do one that you did not see as far as I know. And that's one I had been talking about called Kill. This is a movie that came out of India, but it got a full, U.S. release, albeit it's a brief one. It's already, I think, out of most theaters. But it did at least get released a lot of places. Luckily, it's not one of their 3-hour epics. It's a more reasonable length, which not many Indian movies are. But this is basically, it was trying to be India's answer to like The Raid. It's kind of that, essentially one man or a small group of people against like just an army of oncoming, thing. And it's this excuse to have a lot of really cool and really brutal, like, martial arts fights and knife fights and things like that. And the trailer had me intrigued. It looked decent, so I thought I'd check it out. And I will say for the first half, it was decent. But it clearly just seemed kind of a pale imitation of like The Raid. But it was okay. It was decent. Not quite as brutal or, as action-packed as I was expecting, but it is what it is. But then, like, the halfway point of the movie, almost exactly halfway through the movie, something happens, and then the title card pops up, Kill, which I'm like, wait, so all this was the prologue? Is this... this is weird to have it show up halfway through the movie. And from that point on, though, the movie just, like, takes off. The brutality ratchets up, and the fights are getting more intense and more bloody, more graphic, the kind of things make you go, ooh, you just cringe every time you see shit happening. And I really did quite enjoy it. I enjoyed the first half too, but the second half was more like what we were looking for. That's like the brutal violence we were looking for coming in. And an ending kind of didn't go where I expected it to go. And that moment when, if you see the movie, that what happens halfway through the movie, didn't see that coming. I'll say that too. But I'm not going to spoil it for anybody. But it was, I thought, a pretty impressive movie. And apparently before it even got released here, it's already picked up by Chad Stahelski, the guy who directed the John Wick movies. He's already going to be producing a U.S. remake of this, which is one of those things where like I don't know if you really need it because you have this movie and being almost completely action, the dialogue being in English or Indian doesn't make a difference. So I don't know if that's necessary, but I'll still be curious to see it. But I think it's very effective. It's one of those things you get a lot of really cool action scenes, and they take place in such a compact because they're in train cars and stuff like that. So it takes place in a very compact environment, and which provides all kinds of challenges as well as some cool things you can do with that space. So it's one of those things. If you don't mind foreign language films, check it out.
What did you end up giving it?
I get it on 3.5.
3.5. Okay. I think I got 2 movies on here that you haven't seen, so I'll go with one of those. I would do with the one that came out this weekend. It's on Amazon Prime. My Spy: The Eternal City.
I did not end up watching it.
Yeah, I figured you wouldn't. Because did you ever watch the first one?
I did.
Did you? Okay. My Spy, a movie that I think, good God, the journey for that first movie. It was supposed to come out like, what was it, like 2019, 2018, and then it just kept getting pushed back. Then it was part of that whole Paramount BS, and then COVID happened, and it's like, okay, we're not going in theaters. We're just going to drop it on Prime, and then it was like another 6 months for it to get dropped on Prime, and it's just like, by the time it finally dropped, you're like, oh yeah, didn't that movie supposed to come out like 2 years ago? And it was a fine family film. I mean, it didn't like wow you or anything. It's the same thing. It was like, okay, well, Vin Diesel and The Rock and John Cena, they all had to do their kid, kind of comedy action films. Here's Dave Bautista's. But then all of a sudden, a sequel come out. And I was like, I didn't even know this was coming.
I didn't even know they were making one, yeah.
I didn't know it was coming until all of a sudden they dropped the trailer like 3 weeks ago. And I was like, when the fuck did they shoot this? And, the girl, gotta pull up her name real quick. Chloe Coleman, who plays Sophie, she's back, considerably older. Like that tells you how long ago My Spy was actually probably shot. That she is like considerably older now for this, because she's in high school now, which she looks like she was like maybe middle school when the first one came out. But yeah, it's basically kind of almost like Far From Home in a way, where it's like she's part of a choir and they get sent to Italy, and Bautista is basically chaperoning. So it's kind of, and then of course, he's a CIA operative, so stuff happens, and of course, now he has to juggle both things. It's also got Ken Jeong's back. He's like the director of the CIA. Also, Kristen Schaal. Is it Schaal? She's back. New additions. We got Flula Borg, who I always love him. He's hilarious to me and everything. He's kind of like the muscle bad guy in this. So I was like, oh my god, he's actually playing like a bad guy. Oh, okay, like a murderer. But he still has his funny moments. And then Anna Faris is in this as well. I haven't seen Anna Faris in a while.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, she I haven't seen her in a while in this. So I was shocked to see her, and then she plays like the vice principal on the trip with him. She's kind of like the hard ass, giving Bautista a hard time. Much like My Spy, this isn't gonna like blow people away. It's not awful by any means, and in terms of the Ken Jeong annoyance meter, it's relatively low. He's playing this for the most part pretty straight, which, can you remember the last Ken Jeong movie where he played it straight and wasn't like all over the place? I can't really remember which one it was. Can you? I can't. Hell, he has a couple scenes where he goes full Ken Jeong, but it almost is like warranted when he does it. It's like, well, this fits the scene, so it's okay until the very end. Same thing with Kristen Schaal. I am not a fan of her. I don't find her funny. I kind of find her actually pretty annoying as an actress. She's there, and whenever she's there, I kind of start to tune out because she just annoys the fuck out of me. And then you put her and Ken Jeong in the same scene together, and I'm just like, oh god, this is a bad combination. Please get them apart. Also, Craig Robinson, who I like, he's in it, but they barely use him in the movie. Like, if you didn't know any better, you would know he was a nothing actor because he's got like 3 scenes in the film. So it's like, what the fuck was the point of having Craig Robinson in the movie? Bautista, solid. He's never really bad in anything. He's solid to good in everything he's in. Chloe Coleman. She's solid in the film. She's definitely really coming into her own as an actress. I can see her growing and becoming a little bit bigger and stuff, depending on her roles that she decides to do. The film itself, it's harmless. There's some stupid shit in there. There's some plot points that probably they wasted too much time on, to the point when you're about heading into the third act, you're like, so why did we waste the first 45 minutes on this plot when it really didn't amount to much? And then then at the very end, they're like, oh yeah, here's that plot that we dropped, for 40 minutes. And at that point, you just don't really care about it anymore. One thing I will say about this, when they actually do the stunts are actually pretty good in this. Fight choreography is actually really good in this. The stunt work is pretty good, enough to make me go, for a fucking, My Spy, this is actually pretty fucking solid for that. It's just the rest of the cast, or the rest of the story, doesn't really hold through. It's very paint by numbers, basic in terms of points. We're going to make a statement about another movie a little bit later that I will say the same thing with this. If you cast someone that's a relative name and you think that they have a nothing part, they're probably not a nothing character. By the time they get to the third act, you realize that character has a way bigger story, and you're like, oh, well, duh. Why didn't I think of that? But yeah, it's fine. Like I said, it's not something that I'd rewatch, but you know what? If they made another one, I'd still check it out. And that was kind of how the first one was. It's not bad. It's not great either. It's just is what it is. It's perfectly average. It totally fits as a streaming film. It would do very poorly in theaters, which is probably why they kept it on Prime. But yeah, I gave it a 52, which is like a 2.5. It's harmless. It's fine for what it is. What was your next one?
I think you have not seen my next one. Is Fly Me to the Moon.
I have not seen it yet.
You've not seen that one. That one is, it's kind of being pushed as like this period rom-com, kind of during the Apollo mission stage. I don't feel like it's a rom-com at all. I mean, I feel like there's a rom-com subplot to it, but it's really kind of being mismarketed. And the movie is okay. It's like I had no negative feelings towards the movie at all, except that it's a good half hour too long. This movie's like 2 hours and 10 minutes. It does not need to be this long. So there's that, but it's fine. I think Channing Tatum and Scarlett Johansson both do good jobs. The story is kind of okay, but it's one of those movies that I watched, I enjoyed it, and kind of just have forgotten about it since then. 'Cause it's nothing to make it stand out. I didn't love it. I think I would have enjoyed it more if I would love those two people doing an actual rom-com. I would enjoy, but it really is kind of such a small part of what the movie is, and it's why
it's all about trying to get on the moon the first time.
It is, but you keep hearing described as a rom-com, and I hear other people's reviews talking about it as this rom-com. I'm like, did we watch the same movie? Because
the first trailer actually depicts it like that. So
there's a romance, kind of a subplot to it, which kind of a budding romance, but it doesn't really get going until late in the film, and even then, and then the comedy it's not like a laugh out loud comedy. It's kind of a light drama is more how I'd describe it. So I mean, it was fine. It's the kind of thing that it was essentially made for streaming, because I believe it's an Apple movie. So they basically make these movies. They put them in theaters to get a little bit of money while they can, and then they put it on their service. So when it pops up on streaming, give it a watch. I think most people will enjoy it. It's just not anything notable.
Yeah, that was my plan, was that when it pops up on Apple, I would check it out. Because like I said, I wanted to see it. It was just not enough for me to really, because didn't it come out, was it last week? Yeah, it came out with Longlegs, and I was more intrigued to check out Longlegs than Fly Me to the Moon, especially since I knew Fly Me to the Moon was going to be on Apple eventually. So it's something that I'll catch.
It'll be there fast in a couple of weeks, I'm sure. Yeah.
Exactly. Next, mine you also have not seen, unless you did and didn't tell me, but I still don't think you've seen it, and that is MaXXXine.
Nope.
Okay. So this is the third film of the supposed trilogy from what's the director's name?
Ty Sheridan.
Ty West.
Ty Sheridan.
Ty Sheridan, totally different one. Ty West with Mia Goth. Is it Maya or Mia Goth? Mia Goth. The first one was X, and then the second one was Pearl, which was actually a prequel, not an actual sequel. So MaXXXine is the actual sequel to X. Takes place in the 80s. We're following Maya Goth's Maxine Minx, who was the lead in X. She is leaving the porn star career, and she's now gotten cast in a horror movie. And so she's, trying to be a big star and stuff like that and move on from that past. But stuff keeps coming back from the past to haunt her and basically keeps bringing up the events of X. There's also this killer going around. I forgot what they called the killer in this. That's not the Strangler or something like that, but kind of like a Son of Sam kind of thing. So they're grabbing women at night and all this, and so you have MaXXXine, who knows how to take care of herself, because we saw how she could take care of herself in X, and she's trying to break out in her first big film role as the lead, but someone keeps trying to blackmail her from instances from the first film, and then there's this mysterious killer on the loose who is secretly killing all of her friends. So there's a connection to all this. I will say, in terms of the craziness, because like X was, these people filming a porno on a farm, and the old people fucking go, are crazy, and they fucking kill all the kids on the farm. And then Pearl is about the crazy old lady in X, and all this. It's all about Mia Goth just basically acting her ass off for 3 films. She's great in this. I don't think there's ever been a question of her ability to act in any of these movies. I'm still interested in seeing how she does outside of Ty West, because isn't she like dating him or married or something to Ty West?
I think no, she's with Shia LaBeouf.
Oh, she's with Shia?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought she was with Ty West. My bad.
The last I knew, maybe things have changed. I don't keep up with that kind of stuff.
I don't keep up with it either. I thought they were an item. I really want to see her in something that's not directed by him, because I feel like everything is really there to make her look great in these 3 films, and she is great. There's nothing wrong with her performances in these movies. This definitely is the one that has the best cast around her. You got Kevin Bacon, you got Michelle Monaghan, you've got God, I'm blanking on his name. Juan Carlo Esposito's in it. Bobby Cannavale. Cannavale. Yeah, he's in it. Elizabeth Debicki is in it. So this is easily the best cast around her. It's just that a lot of them aren't utilized to their best potential. They're just kind of characters there. Michelle Monaghan is completely wasted. Bobby Cannavale, he's not a big actor, but he's a solid actor. He's wasted in the film. Kevin Bacon is utilized very well in the movie. And Elizabeth Debicki is solid in the film. But there's just certain aspects of the movie that I felt like they could have hit harder a little bit better. When they do go gore, it's efficient. But I will say, in terms of the previous 2 films, this is kind of the tamest of it in terms of the horror. It does ramp up in the 3rd act, but this is more kind of a mystery up until the 3rd act, where it's like, oh, who's this strangler or whatever the hell they're calling the killer in this, and how is she going to juggle being blackmailed for the events of X, and how's she going to juggle the performance. And then of course it goes a little fantastical at the end as well, where you're not sure what's real and what's in her head to a point. I think you kind of figure it out afterwards when it finally hits the final credits, but it's solid. Outside of the one big scene in X that you and I love, I do think this is the better of the 3, because I wasn't crazy about Pearl outside of Goth's performance in it. I think the movie itself is kind of dull and boring outside of her performance, and X is got, I think, a great first half, and I think the second half it just kind of rushes through. And I thought MaXXXine was a solid film throughout. It's very B-movie-esque. It doesn't try to break the mold or anything. I think it actually plays it safe a lot of the way through. The 3rd act, I wasn't really crazy about the whole reveal and where they went with it. And I thought also it kind of felt like not that I feel like that this was a problem for them. I felt like they ran out of budget at the end, because there's a lot of shit that happens off screen. And especially with like 2 characters, there was like, they show this and it's like, it happened off screen. It's like, why are we not showing that? Like, why are we just stumbling upon this kind of thing? So that kind of irritated me. But at the end of the day, I thought it was a solid film. It's not going to break the mold. A lot of people either think it's the best of the trilogy, like I do, or they think it's the worst of the trilogy, because I think they wanted it to be more like X and Pearl, which it's not. It's totally different. But I gave it a 74%, which was a 3.5 star. I think it's decent for what it was. Okay. Do you have any other movies that I had not seen, or are we just down to the last 3 that we both have seen?
Nope, just those 3.
All right. Well, the next one is on Netflix, and that is A Family Affair. I think you maybe talked about this a little in like little short bits on one of the previous episodes.
Yeah, because I had it as one of my pleasant surprises of the year so far.
Oh yeah, so you talked about it on the half year review.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is starring Zac Efron, Nicole Kidman, and Zoe King. Joey King. Basically, if you've seen the movie The Idea of You earlier with Anne Hathaway, it kind of follows that, but on a more of a comedy approach. Instead of being a musical artist falling in love with a mother of a younger woman, it is following a action star, Zac Efron, and he falls in love with his assistant's mother, Nicole Kidman, and that's how the film kind of goes. Now, you had this as one of your surprising films of the year, so you want to delve a little bit deeper into that?
Yeah, no, I don't have a whole lot more to say beyond what I already did, but it's a movie that, again, this is not anything that I'm going to give any awards to. It's not my top 10 films of the year or anything like that, but this is a movie that, like, it made that list mostly because I didn't know much about it. And so when I saw this movie I hadn't heard anything about, it's going to be dumped on Netflix, I'm like, oh, I have low expectations, and it turned out to be a pretty enjoyable film. I think that goes completely to the three leads. I think that they all do a good job. I think I said at the time as well, I think Joey King at times feels like she's in a separate movie from the other two. It's like they're kind of in this romance movie and she's in more of a broad comedy kind of thing she's got going on. But I think that they are all doing a good job in their roles. And I think that the two the two kind of storylines or the two tones do end up kind of meshing pretty well. And so, I just ended up enjoying it. Again, it's not going to make any of my year-end lists, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
and I have not seen Idea of You, so I can't compare them. So.
Yeah, I agree with you on the Joey King aspect. She did feel like she was in a completely different other film, because you're watching Zac Efron and Nicole Kidman's characters when they're together, and it's like, oh, okay, this is charming, kind of rom-com story for them. I like where they're going. Their characters are likable. But then on Joey King's side, Zac Efron's the worst fucking human being alive. He's an asshole. He's a prick. But it's like, then we watch him. And it's like, it's not. He's really not, though. But every time you got Joey King on screen, she's just like, I fucking hate everything. And it's just like, you're the unlikable one in this. Now, there are scenes where Zac Efron does act douchey, but it's kind of funny when he does it. Where with her, he's like fucking Joffrey from Game of Thrones. And it just kind of puts her in a like, ugh, every time she's on screen, because she's just there to kind of just shit on everyone's parade. Like, she's a very unlikable character for most of the movie. I will acknowledge that I mentioned her earlier in the year in one of my surprising films, which was Players. Lisa Koshy, she plays her best friend in the movie. I really like this actress. Like, this is the second time I've seen her this year, and in both films, I've really enjoyed her. She doesn't get as much to do in this one as she did in Players, but I really like this actress. I really want to see her in more things. I really would love her to see her kind of be more of a kind of like a Joey King character in this, and less like the friend. Even in Players, she's kind of like that. But I really do like where this actress is. She's one of those that I'm like basically keeping an eye on from now on, because I've really enjoyed her performances 2 times so far this year.
Apparently, she's going to be in the new Naked Gun reboot.
Well, hopefully she's got like an actual big lead or part in it, and not just like she's a receptionist in a scene. I think Nicole Kidman is fine in the film. I haven't seen Nicole Kidman in a while. I'm not the biggest Nicole Kidman fan personally, but I liked her in this role. She plays the Anne Hathaway role. Anne Hathaway obviously does it way better, but that's because it's a drama and she's acting way more. But I think Nicole Kidman's fine. Zac Efron is Zac Efron. I mean, if you like him, you'll like him in this. If you don't like Zac Efron, then you're going to hate him in this. I think it was fine. I think it was solid. I enjoyed it for what it was. It's not going to crack my most surprising of the year like it did Brian.
It won't at the end of the year for me either.
Oh, yeah. But I thought it was fine. It's just Joey King, she either works for me or she doesn't work for me. And for about 80% of this movie, she did not work for me. But yeah, I gave it a 72%. I thought it was a solid 3.5 star. It was a decent rom-com Netflix film, which is usually where all the decent rom-com ones are on Netflix. So I think it was a solid one overall. Do we want to go with the one you like or the one you hate?
Let's go with Longlegs next.
I'm going to go with Longlegs next. So this is probably going to be the most divisive review of the list. So we're doing Longlegs. This movie has been touted as the scariest movie in a decade or decades or blah blah blah. Which you saw Brian's reaction to that. I hate so much when they market horror movies like this, because guess what, motherfuckers? Every time you pitch that as your main pitch, the movie is not that. Fucking It Follows. Yeah, if you're a whore, it's a scary movie for you. Or if you're a man whore for the man side of things, then yeah, that's a scary movie for you. It's not a scary movie. Hereditary was a scary movie. It's not the scariest movie since The Exorcist. Why is The Exorcist the fucking lynch pole to this?
Exorcist isn't that good, people.
Exactly. Why is that the tent pole of the scariest movie since The Exorcist? There were plenty of scary movies since The Exorcist that are way better. Like, why aren't we acknowledging that? Why is always The Exorcist? I have no fucking idea why. But this is supposed to be the scariest movie in the last decade. Okay, what came out in 2014? I'm really intrigued. What came out in 2014 that is like the one that, because they're not saying what movie, they're just saying in the last decade. So I'm really interested in what came out in 2014 that is really the focal point for that. But yeah, this is the best way I can describe this. And then I'm going to let Brian take over, because Brian is very negative and I'm more positive, but not by much. This is a movie that's very much trying to be Seven meets Silence of the Lambs. I will say that much, and then I'm going to hand the ball over to Brian. Have at it, Brian. This is going to be fun.
I will read you the first line of my review, which says, I've heard people compare this to Silence of the Lambs and Seven. Just no. Fuck no. This shouldn't even be mentioned in the same sentence as those. And here goes Sean. Now, Sean said it's trying to. He didn't say it was. He said it's trying to.
Oh, it's trying very hard.
I agree. It's trying to. There are times in this movie, because I went and saw, I was hearing so many good things about it. And actually the marketing I thought was like, it was very intriguing. It had a creepy, super creepy atmosphere. I'm like, this could be good. And I heard people
100% on Rotten Tomato, people
so I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go check this out. And as the movie started, I'm like, okay, I'm not loving this, but I'm hearing good things about it. And it definitely does kind of create a creepiness vibe to it. So I'm like, okay, at least they're going for a tone. From the very beginning, Micah Monroe is doing this weird thing where I think I said she acts like she's like an alien pretending to be a human. She's acting
she's very detached from any kind of emotion at all in this film.
But she's doing it in a very weird way. It didn't feel like natural or realistic at all. But I'm like, okay, whatever. She made a choice. Okay, whatever. Nick Cage, from the very first time you see him, or you partially see him or hear him, or however you want to say it, he's unfortunately going full Nick Cage, and not in a good way.
I thought it was great.
Nick Cage is horrible. They have prosthetics on his face for really no reason. There's no reason he couldn't have just been Nick Cage, but with maybe crazy hair or something like that. But they have these unnecessary prosthetics, and just to make him look extra creepy. And that's the whole problem with this movie. This movie is it's trying so hard that it's just like it's trying too hard. It's just like, just please stop. Just you scale everything back. But the problem is I was mostly bored through this entire movie. And it's like I kind of, for a while, I was like, okay, let's see where it's going. I'm going to see where this is going. Okay, it's going to take off. It's going to go somewhere. And then it never really does. And so for the last half of the movie, I was just kind of like, is this fucking almost over yet? And it never went anywhere interesting. I didn't care about the plot, didn't care about the characters. I wasn't impressed by the acting. I wasn't impressed by the filmmaking. And overall, it's just one of those movies where I'm like, I don't know what the fuck movie you guys were watching. All these people praising it, because this is not the best horror movie since anything. This is not even the best horror movie of the year. It's not even the 15th best horror movie of this year. It's it's one of the worst movies of the year. And like I said in my review, I think I'd probably rather rewatch Madam Web, because at least that'd be fun to make fun of.
And you gave this 1 star.
I gave it 1 star.
You gave it 1 star.
Hey, I didn't give it a half star. I gave it 1.
He texted me during the movie, and Brian never talks during a movie. And he was actually talking to me through the movie, going, "Is this movie actually get fucking better?" I was like, "Well, with about 40 minutes left, it really starts to get interesting."
I would also like to point out that I had left to go.
You were in the hallway.
You were in the hallway. Looking at my phone. I wasn't being disrespectful. Yes. Patron, go ahead.
He was in the hallway, guys. He wasn't doing that. But yeah, I was like, well, in the 40 minutes left, it does start to get kind of intriguing, because it starts to have a kind of a through line. And you're like, it better fucking blow me away. And I was like, I told my girlfriend, I was like, he's gonna fucking hate this movie because we had just got done watching it. I was like, that 40 minutes is definitely interesting, but it's not gonna win him over with what I've heard from him already. But yeah, here's the problem with Longlegs, and I, for the most part, thought it was fine. I thought it was fine for what it was. Yes, it so badly wants to be Seven and Sounds of the Lambs, but here mostly Sounds of the Lambs, I will say. But here's
it also wants to be A24, but it's not.
Yeah, I was gonna say if it was A24, I'd be like, that makes a lot of sense. The difference between because Monroe is definitely Clarice and Nick Cage is definitely Buffalo Bill. But what does Silence of the Lambs have that Longlegs doesn't? Hannibal Lecter. This movie does not have a Hannibal Lecter. It does not have a third person. It does not have a third party. Yes, you have fucking Blair Underwood. I didn't even know he was fucking still acting as her like boss. He's not her partner. It's like a boss or whatever.
Boss, yeah.
And then you have her mother in the movie. What's that?
Alicia Witt,
which I've seen in some things. Nothing.
I don't know if I've seen her since like Urban Legend. I don't know.
Yeah, she pops up in little things here and there. It's nothing like crazy or anything like that. She's fine in the film, but she's playing a very one-note character. But it makes sense for her character when we get to that point. But there's no middle person to kind of bring life and energy to the movie. It's just kind of dreadful and somber and like eerie and stuff, which that's the mood. It's going for the mood and it excels. But at least with Sounds of the Lambs, you had that same tone, but then you had these moments where Clarice is talking to Hannibal and you have these like really intelligent, intellectual conversations and scenes where she's trying to get into the mind of a serial killer and the serial killer is getting into the mind of her. And then you have the big blow up at the end with Buffalo Bill. This movie never really has that. You just have her, like Brian says, kind of acting like an alien who doesn't understand human emotions. Like there's that one very awkward conversation where she's talking to Blair Underwood's daughter in her bedroom and she's all like,
she's like staring at the walls, like
she's acting like, oh God, what's her name from Galaxy Quest? The female.
I was gonna say the Thermians. She acted like the Thermians, and
she's acting like them in this movie. Like she doesn't know how to act like. First off, how the fuck did you get an FBI job by acting that way? Like I don't understand how you would have gotten an FBI job back then.
Because of her psychicness.
Oh yeah, that's right. She does have psychic abilities. But I love Nick Cage in this because they said, Nick, we're gonna put some scary looking shit on your face. Just go out there and be Nick Cage, buddy. Just you go Nick Cage it up. He's like, okay, and then he went and Nick Caged himself up, which I appreciated it. But the problem is there's not enough of him in the movie. I needed more Nick Cage for this movie to bring life to the film. Because say what you will, you didn't like his performance, but it was at least more interesting when Nick Cage was more interesting.
It wasn't boring.
It was 1,000% more interesting when Nick Cage was on screen. And he played the creepiness. There's that one point where he's in the convenience store and she's like, is there anything else? And he's all like, cool. I was like, what the fuck are you doing? But you know what?
Like, Dad, the weird guy's back again.
I was like, I'm intrigued by what the fuck's happening right now, though. And then it just it goes this supernatural route, which, once again, outside of her maybe having a psychic ability, they don't have anything supernatural, except they're saying that it's a satanic cult kind of thing. But there's nothing supernatural going on through the whole film. And then they dump this supernatural thing in at the very, very last second. And it's not that it's bad. It's just that, okay, you just got interesting. But I need more. But guess what? Cut credits. That's the end of the movie. And it's just like, but you just got interesting. Like, don't all of a sudden cut the cord right when I'm like, okay, well, I want to know what the fuck happened here. Like, so what happens next? What happens next? And I did read the director got asked about the ending. His description of the ending did help me out a little bit better. It didn't make me like the movie anymore. It just made me kind of understand his approach to it and what he was going for through it. Does not make me like it any more or less. I think it does a good job of setting out what it tries to do, which is be this B-esque, dark, eerie movie, like scary movie. The performances are fine throughout. They ain't gonna break the mold of anything. Monroe still is just kind of the best thing I've ever seen her in was in The Guest. I don't think she's that great of an actress. I haven't seen her do anything since The Guest that I actually liked her in. Nick Cage is going full Nick Cage. If you like full Nick Cage, then you're for it. Brian didn't like it. I did. Blair Underwood is there. I will say this. You know who's a good who was a good fourth performer in this? If you have to go like in cast, you have her, you have Monroe, Blair, Alice Witt, and then Nick Cage. But you know who's right there behind him? Fucking Bill Clinton. Because his fucking face is on that screen fucking so much in that movie. Because they're in Blair Underwood's office, and it's like taking place in like 1994-ish or something like that. And you just got this big ass picture of fucking Bill Clinton.
I was like, thing is, every time you see a movie with FBI agents, it's always got the president's picture up there.
Yeah, and I remember watching this time. My girlfriend was like, "Yeah, it's like Bill Clinton is really a focal point in this movie without actually being a focal point in this movie." And but yeah, it was just kind of fine. Like I'm like you, I didn't understand or get why everyone's like praising this movie. Why this is getting like a 9 out of 10 from so many people, or 4.5 stars, or anything like that. Because it was just okay for me. Now my score is higher, definitely way higher than Brian. I gave it a 67 because, like I said, it's for what it set out to do. It did it. It wanted a creepy, eerie story. Performances were somber and fine for what it did. It doesn't break the mold. It doesn't do anything. It set out for what it strives to do, and it does that. The supernatural elements, when it showed up, was interesting and intriguing. It left me wanting more. I think it could have gone 15 to 20 more minutes with that aspect of the story, and I would have been interested to see what they would have done. Because just when it got interesting, it cut, and I wanted that extra time. They could have also taken the time that they had and gave us more of that, and maybe would have brought more life to the fucking role or the film than what it did. But at the end of the day, it's just what it is. I gave it a 67, which, like I said, Brian's not going to agree with that. That's a 3.5 star, which to him, he's like, fuck that. But compared to a lot of people's reviews, that's low. That's a low score for me. It's even lower for Brian. Yeah. But yeah, like I said, I didn't love it. It's not something I would ever go back and rewatch. And it's also not something I necessarily recommend. Hey, go check that out. It's just, it is what it is.
Yeah, spoiler alert, this will be on my worst of the end of the year list.
Well,
there's no way I see enough worse movies that it gets us off that list.
Like Madam Web is still way fucking worse. Because like we said, yes, it did. Disagree, no, you're only giving Madam Web the benefit of the doubt because it's more entertaining because of how bad it is. But nothing in Longlegs is egregiously breaking Hollywood protocol like Madam Web is, and that is why Madam Web is still worse. And you know it. You know it. You just don't want to admit it.
But you also know that my ratings and rankings,
I know it's purely on entertainment.
My enjoyment of the film.
I know. But I'm just saying, as a movie, as itself, Madam Web is still way fucking worse than Longlegs. Anyway, going into our final review, this is a movie that Brian and I were both cautiously excited for. But I think both of us were pleasantly surprised that it didn't suck. And that was Beverly Hills Cop, Axel F. I still fucking hate that title so much. Just call it Beverly Hills Cop 5, or just call it Axel Foley. Or just say Beverly Hills Cop Axel Foley, not Axel F. I don't get why the fucking F is there. Anyway, Beverly Hills Cop. Brian, you're more of a fan of the Beverly Hills Cop franchise than me, so why don't you take it off?
Well, I've never loved the Beverly Hills Cop movie. Like the first one was like I think the highest grossing movie that year. I think even, and you know it kind of has this legendary status as one of these greatest comedies of all time, and it's not that good. I mean, it is kind of the movie the first time like Eddie Murphy like starred in a movie and became the superstar he is. He had roles with other people and things like in 48 Hours and Trading Places, but that was kind of this is what catapulted him to be a movie star. And they're entertaining. I honestly think 2 is better than 1. I think a lot of that's due to Tony Scott's direction. I think he makes it real interesting, and I like the plot and the look of the film a lot better. 3 is really pretty bad, although not like the complete pile of dog shit that a lot of people make it out to be.
See, when I was brought up with 3, so I loved 3. Now I watched it like a year or two ago, and no, it's not good. But like when I was younger, 3 was the one that I watched, and I had never seen the first 2, so I didn't watch the first 2 until later. But
3 is not good. But like some people think it's like the worst movie in the world. It's like it's not. Whatever. It is what it is, guys. So and then it's been, well, let me see, that was what, 94, I think, was 3.
Yeah,
So it's been
94.
30 years now since that one came out. And over the years there've been, rumors they're gonna make a fourth movie. They're gonna make a fourth movie. And meanwhile, Eddie Murphy went off and just started doing nothing but like kiddie movies for a long time. And then once in a while he tried to take on a serious role, wanted to be taken seriously as an actor. And then, he started doing this thing where he'd pop up in like Tower Heist, or he'd pop up with Dolomite Is Still My Name. And then they would Coming to America. It's like, he's kind of getting back to the old comedy Eddie. It's like maybe now he'll finally make it. There's always been rumors to make it. At one point, they made a pilot for a TV show that ended up not going forward because I think it was focusing more on his son, honestly, than him. But so they're finally making a fourth movie. Great. I'm excited about it. Hey, guess what? It's going to be directed by Adil and Bilal, the guys who did Bad Boys 3 at the time. Now they've done 4 as well. I'm like, okay, now I'm really excited because I love the way they have a great way of making action, and they kind of are able to make it have kind of that 80s feel to it. And so I'm like, I'm in. This sounds good to me. Then that fell through, and they attached some director who, as far as I know, has done like nothing. So I'm like, okay, I'm losing some enthusiasm. You hear they're bringing back a lot of the people: Judge Reinhold, John Ashton, Paul Reiser, Bronson Pinchot. Although I think Bronson Pinchot's character sucked in all 4 movies.
Yeah, I love him in all 4 movies. He's
I think a little of him goes a long way, and they always have all his scenes go on for like 3 times longer than they need to.
Axel, I love
and
him.
They're adding in Joseph Gordon-Levitt. They're adding in Kevin Bacon. I'm like, okay, well, and Kevin Bacon, who as soon as you see him in cash, like, okay, he's the bad guy.
Bad guy.
The first thing in the movie, like, bad guy. Luckily, they don't even try to hide it though. They make it pretty clear, like early on in the film, like he's the bad guy.
Here's blah blah.
I'm like, okay,
bad guy.
I like the cast. I want to see Eddie get back into being Eddie. I know they're gonna let this thing be R-rated, so I'm like, okay, I have hope for this. It is going to Netflix, which, okay, they don't want to take a chance on putting this in theaters because they don't know if like the ship has sailed on this thing. It might not be profitable, but fine. At least I'm getting a movie. I don't care if I have to watch it at home.
Yeah.
And I saw the first trailer for it. It was okay. It didn't blow me away, but I'm like, okay. I didn't look at it and think this looks like dog shit. So I'm like, okay. And I watched it, and I was actually pleasantly surprised by this movie. I think more than anything else, I think it did a great job of recapturing the same vibe. Because I mean, Eddie was kind of slipping back into the old Eddie. The look of the film was kind of had the same thing. The personality seemed there. The music was a big part of it. I think they perfectly captured. They got the music right, so it felt like it starts off right away using like 2 or 3 of the songs that are famously from the first 2 movies, and I think that did a lot to help kind of set you back in that world. But they got that right. They did most of their action was practical. Obviously, there was some CG used, but a lot of their action was done practically, and you could tell it makes you feel kind of like the old movies again, instead of feeling like a reboot or an update of it. And that's just it. The tone of it was just right. And it's not, again, this isn't a movie that's going to make my, well, I honestly, right now it's in the top 10, but it probably won't stay there. But I was pleasantly surprised because I enjoyed this. And, I hope that maybe now Eddie can continue making movies like this again, instead of slipping back into the family thing or just slipping back into retirement. But, yeah, I ended up enjoying it quite a bit.
I will say this. This is the first time while watching it. It was within the first 15 minutes where I'm like, oh my God, is Eddie Murphy back? Because this felt like Eddie Murphy again. Like, this is the first time I felt like Eddie Murphy's back being Eddie Murphy. Since probably Dolomite. Because Dolomite, I was like, okay, there's
before Dolomite, you got to go back a while.
Oh, you go even further. But yeah, like I said, the first act, when he's in Detroit, you have, like I said, you have the music, and you're just like, oh my God, are they playing? Yes! Fuck yeah. And it's like, it's him just being his, like, I'm the new goalie. Just coming and just being Axel, or basically being Eddie. And it felt good, unlike Coming to America, where it just felt like a shell of itself. And it felt off. It just didn't feel
and Coming to America did what so many like reboots or what they call legacy sequels years later do, is that it's like, okay, we're going to bring him back, but it's going to be about this other character. It's going to be about his son, and he's there, but he's more supporting character, which they very well could have done, because they bring in his daughter into the story, but they have it his relationship with his daughter. It's not like she's the star of it, he's in the background now. It's still about Axel.
But it's like, even in Coming to America, Eddie it didn't even feel like he was playing the same character. It just felt like he was just there to collect
he was cashing a project what he was doing.
Yeah, but this felt like Eddie was happy to be back. He was happy to don the Detroit, jacket. He was happy to just be out there doing his thing. He doesn't look like he's aged a fucking day. Like, he still looks like fucking like he did 30 years ago for the third film. He's having a blast playing this character, and you could see it through his performance. Kevin Bacon's fine in the film. He's being Kevin Bacon, which for some people that's enough. I am a little bummed that Mark Pellegrino is in the movie and he's barely utilized. He's like the number 2 bad guy, and it's like if you don't know who he is, then you're not going to pay attention to him. I don't even remember seeing when he dies in the movie. He's just gone, and I was like, oh, when the fuck did Mark Pellegrino die? But because he's not around anymore. But he's too good of an actor to have not been utilized in that film. He's too good.
You got to wonder if there are scenes cut or something. Yeah,
exactly, because he's too good of an actor to basically be wasted in the film. Joseph Gordon-Levitt is solid in the film, but he's solid in every movie. The OG cast, I think all of them are good in the moments that they're brought in. His daughter, Taylor Page, who I thought she was fine. There were certain scenes I didn't necessarily like her performance in, but out overall, I thought she was solid in the movie.
I honestly would have been fine if they cut that whole storyline, but that's just me.
Well, if I had it my way, we wouldn't have gone back to Beverly Hills in the first place. We would have stayed in Detroit, because the story that they were telling in that first act in Detroit was way more interesting than what was going on in Beverly Hills.
Which is why they could have just called it Axel Foley and Beverly Hills Cop.
Exactly, just drop the Beverly Hills thing, because they didn't need to go back there. Because, like I said, the first act, there's this gang or this like crew that's trying to do this stuff, and he's trying to figure that out, and then he goes a little too far with his antics, and Paul Reiser gets fired because of it. And guys, this is on the first act, so I'm not spoiling anything.
And I would have liked to have seen more Paul Reiser too.
Exactly, and you had this whole thing where it's like the commissioner, times are different, you can't be the same cop anymore, and it's like, that's an interesting plot point and a plot story, because how does an Axel Foley type of character, which is much like Bad Boys, how does that character work in today's climate? And I actually would have been interested in seeing that in Detroit, because Detroit's still Detroit. But no, he goes to Beverly Hills, and it's still just kind of the same story. He's a fish out of water, but he understands it more, obviously, but it's still just very much Beverly Hills. And I would have loved to see what he would have done if they just would have kept him in Detroit. I feel like that would have been a way better film. There's 2 parts of the movie that really did bug me, though. One is a blink and you miss it, and the other one is a timeline thing that doesn't work. The timeline thing is they full on in the movie talk about the years of the first 2 films. Oh, in 84 you did this, and 87 or 88 you did this, and then in 94 you did this. But his
not your best moment. I like that little dig at part 3. Yeah.
What's that?
They made a little dig at part 3. 94. Oh, that was not your best moment.
Yeah, but his daughter's 32, which means that he would have had Jane before part 3 happened. Did you miss that?
I guess. Oh, he did give an age, didn't he? Yeah.
Yeah. He says you were born March da, and you're 32 years old, which would have been 1992, which meant that she was around when 3 happened. And we know that that's not the case. So they fucked up on the time frame there. That's a simple, like, you literally called it. If you didn't call it out in the movie, you could say, well, it doesn't mean that was in 1994. But then they called it out. It's like, okay, you guys just doubled down on fucking.
Well, maybe this takes place in 2026.
No, they don't, because they said 2024 in the movie. But so yeah, they fucked up there. And number 2, in the early scene when he's in the locker room with the hockey guys and he's like fighting them off, did you not notice that the security guard tackles him and not the people stealing? The white cop tackles Axel.
I thought that was supposed to be like intentional, like commentary on like, oh, you're assuming the black guy's the crook.
Exactly, that's the problem. I was like, really? Like, he's clearly the one trying to stop the people from stealing like the Stanley Cup ring and the national championship ring and stuff like that. But the cop still tackles Axel. But then they don't like. There's no like Axel going, really? You tackled me? Like, no, they just moved on from it. And I was like, that scene bugs me. Like, if you're gonna do that, then have Axel like say something about that. Don't just move on like it didn't happen, because that cop straight up tackled Axel and not the crooks, who are white, and that kind of irked me on that scene. But it's fine for what it is. Also, I love, and I'm in my brain, like I said, my brain chooses to decide different things. Much like Family Plan is the secret sequel to the big hit. Shooter McGavin is in this movie. That is Shooter McGavin. Tell me you think it's Shooter McGavin.
I don't care about Shooter McGavin, so I have no strong feeling.
I know you don't like Happy Gilmore. You don't care about Happy Gilmore. But there's a scene on a golf course, and the actor who plays Shooter McGavin and Happy Gilmore is there. And in my brain, Shooter McGavin is in Beverly Hills Cop Axel Foley, and that made me happy that he was there because he did act like Shooter McGavin in the movie. So I'm for anyone who's wants that little tidbit, Shooter McGavin's in the film. He doesn't do the gun, but in my brain he did the gun. But yeah, it's solid. It's a solid Beverly Hills Cop film, and I'm totally down to see another one. I hope it's in Detroit. But if this is what Eddie wants to do, is go back and do these movies, I'll watch Eddie. Now, granted, he's going to go do Shrek 5, and I think he's also going to do an actual donkey movie now. So he's actually going back and hitting all of his hits right now, which is fine. But I'm totally.
They all kind of hit that point. Like Sylvester Stallone hit that point where it's like, okay, nobody wants to see my new shit, so I'm just gonna start making. I mean,
fucking Vin Diesel did. That's how we got all the Fast and Furious movies we did now. Is he's like, I ain't doing Fast and the Furious anymore. I ain't doing Triple X. I ain't doing Pitch Black. And then he went back and did all 3 of them, and now it's like all he does.
And he's talking about another Rick now. Yeah,
exactly. So it's like, if we are only going to get Eddie Murphy back in these kind of films, this is his bread and butter. It doesn't have to be Beverly Hills Cop, but this is the Eddie we want, Eddie. Give us this. Like, if it's on Netflix or it's on the motion picture screen, I don't care. I think most people are clamoring to see old Eddie Murphy back, just like they clamor to see old Jim Carrey and all that stuff. Just make better movie decisions and better movie choices.
I want to see Eddie Murphy stand up again, but the problem is he could never do stand up now because he'd get canceled
he get canceled in 2 seconds flat. Yeah. Just don't go back and do Norbit or Nutty Professor again. Like, just stick with your R-rated, kind of action comedies. Like, I think he'd be great. I ended up giving Beverly Hills Cop a 73%. I think it's solid for what it does. Yeah, I think it's solid for what it does. I think everything in it is solid. It doesn't break the mold. It's not going to wow you, but it's a nice callback home to the old school Beverly Hills film. It's like, it's nice to see Eddie Murphy back. Now, whether he stays or disappears again, that's entirely up to him. But it was definitely nice to see Eddie Murphy back in what we love him and what he does. But we hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you guys did, go and hit that like, share, and subscribe button to the channel so you guys stay up to date with all the latest videos pop up on the Movie Crusaders. And of course, you're going to follow some of the social media you see below. Tell us what are your thoughts on everything we talked about. Did you like The Acolyte, The Boys, Longlegs, or you like Brian and you fucking hated it? Let us know what you thought of all these shows and movies that we talked about on here and the trailers. Are you excited for anything that we talked about on the trailer aspect of it? Out right now, we have a non-spoiler and spoiler discussion for Twisters that came out earlier this week. Also, our part 2 of our MCU show, we went over our rankings for all the live-action TV shows since WandaVision debuted, and also the State of the Union on the MCU, where we think they are now and where we think they're heading towards, even with Comic-Con and Deadpool and Wolverine coming up. Speaking of Deadpool and Wolverine, next week, Deadpool and Wolverine comes out. We will definitely be having a duo review of that, so be on the lookout for that one as well. But yeah, till next time, we are the Movie Crusaders. I'm Sean Waskrew. That is Brian Michaels. And in case we don't see you, go watch the movies and go have some fun.
You're still here. It's over. Go home.